Warning, this podcast contains dry humor and sarcasm not suitable to those who can't take a fucking joke. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome back to Anti-Social Murder Club. We're back, bitches.
Hey guys, we have returned.
We're not even gonna make excuses. We're just back. All right, deal with it.
Yeah, that's it.
We're back. Happy Halloween, happy October, happy fall.
The greatest time of the year.
Yes, the happiest time of the year.
It's jacket weather.
We did this on purpose. We're back. We're happy. We're in the schmood.
Yes, we're back and we're better. But yeah,
better than ever.
Back like we never left.
Exactly. So this month, I think we're sticking to spooky things.
Yep, in honor of, I would say, my favorite holiday. I don't know if it's your favorite holiday, but
this is Halloween. This is Halloween.
Santa Claus. But yeah,
that's all I know.
But yeah, in honor of Halloween, we decided we're going to do some cases that are, you know, have a tad bit of spooky in them.
Exactly.
Or inspired some of our favorite movies, horror movies, things like that. We figured that we'll get into those this month just to
I don't watch horror movies, so for me it's more of just like things that actually creep me out.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, but when I meant by like our, I didn't mean like you and I, but just like people in general, like the stories and the lore that inspired a lot of the popular movies and things that are out there.
Very true. Good point. Good point.
So, who's going first this time?
I guess I'll go first. Mine is like kind of short and sweet, I guess. I know yours is like a heavy hitter, a big case, a well-known one, and mine is just kind of like, meh.
It's not so much of a big case, only because there's only but so much information about it, but it's very well known.
Very well known.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So for me, one of the creepiest cases that I've ever read about or seen or anything like that was the murder of Elisa Lam. It's not like it didn't like base any movies. It isn't like behind any movies or anything like that. It just creeped me the fuck out.
Yep.
So I was just like, when I thought of Halloween, I was just like, yes, this is the one. So I guess we'll start off with the murder of 22-year-old Elisa Lam. She was the daughter of immigrants from Hong Kong, and she was a student at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver. So shout out Canada. In January of 2013, she took a solo trip to Cali using Amtrak as well as intercity buses, which for me is just like, why the fuck? I would never go solo. Like, I won't go solo on a bus around the corner. Like, that shit is wild to me.
I mean, I've ridden the bus and the train by myself to New York, but that's about as far as
You're braver than me, child. Braver than me.
I mean, the China bus back in the day, you go
look.
It was like $20-something all the way up from here.
Child. All right, so on January 26th, she arrived in Los Angeles and checked into the Cecil Hotel. So remember that name. It'll come up many times.
The Soho Hotel?
The Cecil.
Oh, Cecil Hotel.
Cecil Hotel. And it was near Skid Row, which is just like...
On Skid Row. Isn't that from a musical?
I don't know.
Did they sing about that in Little Shop of Horrors, I feel like they did.
Oh, no musicals like that. I know I watched Little Shop of Horrors, but Skid Row is a dangerous... Well, for me, it would just be like, as a solo girl alone, I would not go there and stay there.
But I think that was the premise. Like, in Little Shop of Horrors, when they were singing about Skid Row, they were talking about how dangerous it was.
Well...
and how everybody was, like, broke boys and, like...
It's just a bunch of, like, homeless people and, like... I guess it was like when the government decided to just like throw out a bunch of like mentally ill people from like hospitals. They just formed Skid Row and such places around the country.
Interesting.
Exactly. I don't know how many facts there is behind the statement I just made, but I'm just assuming. So she was assigned a shared room, which is kind of like a hostel of sorts, when she got to the Cecil Hotel. But after just 2 days of being there, her roommates complained about odd behavior and asked that she be moved. There was no like specifics behind her odd behavior, but it must have been something wild for her roommates to be like, yo, she needs to get the fuck out of here. So Elisa contacted her parents every day while traveling, but on January 31st, the day that she was actually supposed to check out of the Cecil Hotel and continue her trip to Santa Cruz, she did not call her parents. Immediately sensing that something was wrong, her parents called LAPD, and they flew to Los Angeles to help with the search. A nearby bookstore manager claimed that she saw Elisa on the day that she went missing and that she was alone and was just getting some gifts for her family. So she was just going about her everyday routine, and it was planned that she planned to leave that day. So it was just nothing out of the ordinary. Police searched Elisa's hotel room. They had dogs, cadaver dogs, go through the building, including the rooftop, but the dogs didn't detect her scent or anything like that. So it was just kind of like she disappeared into thin air.
Whoa, that's weird.
Very weird. So just 2 weeks after her initial disappearance without any clues or anywhere as to where she had gone, on February 14th, LAPD released a video surveillance footage from the Cecil Hotel showing the last known sighting of Elisa Lam. Have you seen this?
No.
Okay.
It's making me think of the current season of American Horror Story and that hotel they went to get Queenie from.
So I haven't caught up. I only watched 2 episodes.
Sorry, spoiler alert.
Yeah, I didn't even know Queenie was in this. But this reminded me of the hotel season of American Horror Story. Have you seen that?
No, I didn't watch that season.
Damn! Okay, so this is very weird, and I probably should have showed you this before we started this damn podcast.
It lets me know. It makes me a little bit more into it because I don't know anything. The other ones, when I know, I kind of zone in and out.
Yeah,
so, yeah,
true. So this elevator clip is what creeped me the fuck out.
Okay.
I've watched this. There's a lot of things I've watched, and I watched Ghost Adventures. I've watched all the paranormal shows, and it's just it's scary, but I'm still able to sleep at night. This clip specifically, there's something about it that just makes goosebumps. Just all over your body. It just makes you feel very uncomfortable. I remember the first time I watched it, I was just like, let me say a quick prayer. Let me get my rosary and shit. All right. So the video is super creepy. The camera is positioned above, it's in the actual elevator. So it's not outside. It's in the actual elevator. It's in if you're staying in an elevator, it's in the far left corner of the elevator looking down.
Okay.
So you can see everything. You can see where you press the buttons. You can see every corner. It's very movie-esque. So in the beginning of the video, you see Elisa calmly get into the elevator and push the buttons. And this is where things start getting weird, from the very start. So, when you're in an elevator, you know where you're going. If you're in a building, say you're staying at a hotel for a couple days, you know where your room is, you know where the lobby is, you know where the pool is, you know where everything is. So you should know, hey, I'm going to the lobby, room, floor 1, or whatever. When she gets in the elevator, it's she presses all the middle buttons. And it's just she goes down and pushes all of them all at once.
Playing a game? Because, some kids do that.
Yes. Or it's just
or immature adults.
Or if someone's chasing you, they say press a bunch of buttons to kind of throw them off.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. So it's just very weird from the very beginning. She presses all the buttons. She kind of crouches down as she's doing this. So it's not you're standing straight in a normal. She's crouching down in this weird position, pressing all the buttons. It's very weird from just the jump.
Was she crouching as if she was hurt or?
No, it's just kind of if you're trying to see something up close, or if you're trying to hide yourself, if you're trying to hide yourself while pushing something, it's kind of you make yourself small. That's how she's crouching down. It's very weird. So the elevator door seems to move as it's about to close a little bit. It goes in maybe 2 inches, it's closing, stops, and then goes right back to opening up. It's kind of someone stepped in and then it opened up again. But no one's there. It's just her. That's the creepiest shit ever. It stalls, And then Elisa is standing towards the back corner. So she presses all the buttons. The door kind of opens, closes, opens back up. And then she like moves herself slowly to the very back corner of the elevator. And then she slowly like walks up to the elevator opening and does this very quick, like she kind of hops out. Like one foot, her left foot seems like it's still in the elevator. Her right foot is out of the elevator. And she kind of like looks both ways very quickly and then hops back in the elevator, still crouching. Like it's very weird. Like it's so weird. And then she like moves to the front corner of the elevator again where the buttons are.
Uh-huh.
And she kind of like stays there, hides a bit, like someone's like, it's kind of like when she went out, she saw someone looking at her or looking for her, she goes back in and makes herself like small towards like the corner of the elevator, and then she hops back out of the elevator, and then she's just like out of sight of the camera, and then I'm sorry, I'm just trying to read as to what happened. She takes like a small hop out to the hallway, like when you're scared. So her movements are very weird. She does this little side step, back step movement. So she's like in and out of the elevator basically. Like this
on
whole
every
time.
floor? She's doing
No,
that?
it's on the same floor. The elevator never closes. This whole time.
Even though she hit all those buttons?
Even though.
Oh.
The alarm never goes off. Like it, like where we work, not to say anything, but where we work, if you're like talking to someone and they're standing in the way of the sensor, the alarm rings. She's been there for a minute playing this like little game, coming in and out of the elevator. The elevator never closes, the alarm never rings, nothing ever happens. Which is weird as fuck.
Yeah.
Very weird.
She playing a game with like a spirit that no one else can see.
Exactly. Damn, am I on the wrong page? I'm so sorry.
Lose your footing.
What the fuck happened? Okay, she then moves in the opening of the elevator. Yeah, so like when she like hops back out of the elevator. And then she's kind of out of frame for a minute, and then you see her like hands, like you just see like she's out of frame, but she's like outside of the elevator. Her hands kind of go up like she's grabbing her head. And then you can just kind of see her hands go down, and then she comes back in the elevator and she's still holding her head kind of like you're hearing something, but you're covering your ears kind of thing. She presses the buttons again, and then like she like stumbles back into the hallway, and then she's out of frame. And she stays out of frame. And then you just never see her again. The elevator like stalls on closing the door. After a couple of like seconds, it closes, and then it goes to every single floor, opening the door, closing perfectly fine. To every floor she like pressed. Which was creepy as fuck. So, prior to her disappearance, it'd probably be a good time to disclose that Elisa had actually been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and depression. So she was on medication to treat both, although her parents had kept her diagnosis under wraps. They did confirm that she was not suicidal or had any attempts. So a lot of people, when this elevator footage came out, were just like, she was having a manic attack. She was having some like sort of psychological attack or something like that. But a lot of people were just like, it seems very weird, because she was fine for the first couple of days that she was there, aside from like her roommate saying that she was acting odd. The elevator footage just seemed like it was not a regular manic episode.
Right.
So, just 5 days after the release of the surveillance footage, on the morning of February 19th, Elisa Lam's body was found in a 1,000-gallon tank on the roof of the Cecil Hotel. Her body was found after guests had complained about low water pressure, as well as an odd smell and taste emanating from the water.
Ew. Shout out to the read.
Her body was nude. Her clothes were found floating beside her, along with her room key and watch. So on February 21st, the LA Coroner's Office issued the cause of death as accidental drowning with bipolar disorder as a significant factor, aka I'm assuming they just assumed it was suicide. She just had an episode, she committed suicide. But there was no evidence of like physical trauma or sexual assault. The toxicology report, although incomplete due to lack of preserved blood, showed traces of prescribed medication and non-prescription medication. So she was taking like allergy, like Sudafed, kind of like to, for, what is it, nasal congestion. And regular ibuprofen, which was like pain medication that she took.
So allergy medicine and pain medication.
Yeah, so it wasn't anything out of the norm. So it wasn't like she overdosed. She wasn't high off anything. There wasn't any like meth or coke or anything drastic in her blood. So there were a couple questions that arise from her autopsy reports. So although the official coroner report states that there were no signs of sexual assault, and a rape kit and looks like a fingernail, like whatever kit. I don't know if it's a kit or something like that.
The swab under their nails.
Fingernail swabs were taking. There's actually no actual evidence of it ever being processed.
But wouldn't it, all the evidence would have washed away anyway if she was floating in water?
Maybe if it was like, if she was raped, stuff inside, or like trauma.
Maybe.
I don't know, but like fingernail, I mean, if they took swabs and all that, they should have still tested it.
Yeah.
Like it still should have been tested. It looks like they swabbed it, but they just like, well, it was suicide. We're not. There's no need to do this.
Right.
So on the report, the internal or like under, there was like pooling of blood under the skin around her anus.
Okay.
So a lot of people like thought that this was obvious signs of like a sexual assault, but there was one pathologist that noted it could have also resulted from bloating during decomposition?
Now you messed me up. I just had it.
Decomposition.
Is decompose, whatever, go ahead.
Decomposition. I'm pretty sure that's it.
Okay, go ahead.
So like apparently like when the body is decomposing, like your things pool with blood and there's like comes out sometimes. And
I guess that makes sense because it will the blood, because its blood's not moving anywhere. It will rest in certain places or pool in places, so that makes sense. Yeah.
But a lot of people were just like, well, why wasn't this looked into? So we know how quote unquote she died, as like the coroner said, but supposedly how she died. But now there's like a question as to how the fuck she got into that 8-foot-high water tank. Saying she, like, let's assume she committed suicide. How the fuck do you get into that water tank?
Was there a ladder on the side of it or something?
Oh, we're about to get into that.
Okay.
So the doors and stairs to the roof of the hotel were supposedly locked at all times, and only the staff had passcodes or keys or anything to access it. They also had, there was also like alarms around all the doors, so if anyone opened it, any attempt to open it would have supposedly triggered those alarms. One way, though, to surpass said locks and alarms and all that was through the fire escape. So she would have had to have previously either known that the fire escape was available, someone would have told her. It wasn't just like general knowledge that, hey, let me use a fire escape to go to this roof to like bypass all these alarms and shit. So it's just like very odd. Aside from all that, how did her body end up in that 8-foot-high, 1,000-gallon water tank where even the firefighters had trouble getting into? They had to, like, cut a hole into the actual tank to try and get her body out because they couldn't just lift it out. Like, they couldn't lift it up, prop the door open, and just, like, take out the body. On the roof of the hotel, there were a total of 4 water tanks, all propped up on a concrete block, and there was no fixed way of accessing them. So there was actually no ladder next to them. So you had to have brought your own ladder.
And my other question is, real quick, I'm sorry, but were the water tanks not sealed at the top?
It wasn't like they were like sealed with like concrete or anything like that. Like, say you brought up a ladder and like some sort of tool to like prop them open, you could have, but you had to be very strong to do that.
Okay, so there is a lid on the top. It's just that
there is a lid. Yes, there is a lid, but it's not like any like random person can just go out there and just open it and be like, well, I'll take a quick swim in here.
Right. This looks refreshing.
Exactly. So there were a total of 4 tanks. In order to open the unhinged lids, one would have to bring up a ladder. And if we go with the theory that she used the fire escape to go up to the roof, she would have had to have carried that ladder with her while going up by herself. And she was only like 5 feet tall.
Right.
So logically, I think we can agree that that doesn't happen. That's not possible. So there was also no ladder found on the roof when her body was found. So say she did prop it open, where the fuck is the ladder?
Right.
The lids were extremely heavy, so even if someone with such a small frame like Elisa would have been able to prop the lid open and jump into it, it would have been impossible to close the lid while in the tank. Remember her floating clothes in the tank? So, say she did make it in and had like superhuman strength or whatever and was able to do it all by herself, she would have had to have stripped while in the tank in the water. Right. And like the tank was full of water. And you know how heavy your clothes gets when it's wet? It's like, how?
Yeah.
How? So all of this leads to, well, me personally, to believe that someone had to have been with her, someone dragged her body in there. Like, it wasn't suicide. I just feel like it just wasn't suicide. So we're going to move on to the lingering questions and theories and all that, which basically are it's like everything that this case... Like, this case is just a bunch of questions and theories at the end of the day.
You know what else is reminding me of? You know, remember that case, I think it might have been last year or the year before, where that girl went, they found her in the freezer at a hotel?
Yes, but I feel like, I didn't read it on, it was like Twitter, right?
Yeah, but like I saw some of it on social media, but then I also like read a little bit more about it in other places. Because at first they thought,
it was just like her friends tricked her into it or something like that.
That's what they were saying, but then they weren't sure at the same time how she got in the freezer, because they did show her stumbling down the hallway.
Yeah, and they were like, oh, she was just drunk and she accidentally stumbled into a freezer and locked herself in. But it's just like, but the way to get into the freezer, it's locked.
Yeah.
And all that shit.
I think the beginning part where her friends, they were trying to say that I think she was set up to be raped or something, but I don't know if they ever proved that part to be true.
I don't think that case ever really got solved. I feel like it's just like this case. Like, this case, like, of Elisa Lam, it was just kind of like the cops, her family, and everyone involved in it was just kind of like, well, she committed suicide, close the case, that's it. At the end of the day, like, this investigation has been closed. The only reason that this is, like, still out there is because people like us are still looking into it. People like us aren't, like, convinced that this is it. Like, there's just no way. Like, our logic just doesn't let us think that this is it.
Yeah.
So, she did have a phone, obviously, because she was calling her family and all that during all her travels. But that was never found. It was actually, like, reported stolen. And no one ever looked for it. It's never been found. No one knows where it is. That's it. Like, no one looked into it, where it's just like, clearly, if she has her phone and she's in a different country because she's Canadian, her phone should be her main way of communicating with anyone. Why wouldn't you put so much effort into looking into it and finding it and all that?
Right.
So one question that I did have while reading about this case is, say she did climb in while having, like, a manic episode or whatever, and then she, like, came to, there weren't, like, any reports indicating that there were signs of a struggle inside. So, you know, like, if you're buried alive or if you're trapped anywhere or drowning or whatever, there's scratches. Like, you're struggling. I think your, like, bodily instinct in any case, whether you're trying to commit suicide or whatever, is to struggle, to fight, to live, or whatever. There was no reports of any of that. So it's just kind of like, I feel like she was, like, thrown in there.
Like, after maybe she died already?
Exactly.
Or, yeah.
And I don't know if I completely believed, like, the autopsy reports. I feel like they just didn't do a good job.
I feel like the more and more we get into these cases and about, like, what is it again? the autopsy reports, like, I feel like a lot of times they're very subjective.
Yeah.
Because there's several things that can result in the same thing.
And, like, one coroner will say one thing while another coroner will, like, interpret it another way. So it's just like, what is the answer?
Yeah.
We're going to get to, like, a couple questions into the elevator video. So in any other building with a working elevator, pushing that many buttons at the same time and stalling the elevator would have triggered that alarm that we talked about earlier. And it never happened in this case. And then to my knowledge, the alarm was never triggered. No employee ever came up. No one realized that this elevator wasn't moving or anything like that. And then for the elevator door to remain open for so long, there would have been something triggering that sensor. And I did read a lot of, like, things, and I listened to a couple other, like, podcasts and all that covering this case. And they did say that she pushed the hold elevator button. But I've never pressed that hold elevator button and it lasted so long.
No, it doesn't.
It's just like for a couple seconds.
Well, like the one in where we work, you hit the whole button, it don't last for a couple seconds. I've been in other elevators where it will stay open, but ours, if you hold that whole button, the alarm will start going too.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that's not all elevators. That's just this location, because I've been to other ones where they'll let you hold it for a long time.
Really?
Yeah. So it's kind of weird.
But, like, I don't know. Maybe I missed it.
But you have to mash it down. You can't just push it. And
exactly.
and
she wasn't, like, mashing it down the entire time. It's just kind of like she pressed it once and that was it. And there were a couple videos and all that. There's actually, like, one video of, I want to say, like, some YouTuber who goes to the Cecil Hotel and tries it. He's like, yeah, it stays open for 2 minutes. And it's just like, okay, but you could trigger, or, like, you could alternate this video to, like, I don't know. It's just, like, very weird. Like, very weird. I came across a lot of articles that actually mentioned, and in my opinion, confirmed that the creepy, like, that video itself, released by the LAPD was actually altered. It was slowed down. The timestamp is blurred. And there were, like, at some moments where she kind of, like, her face is facing the camera. She's saying something, and her, like below her nose, like, just her mouth is kind of pixelated. You can't see what she's saying. And it's true. Like, the timestamp on the video that was released is blurry. Like, you can't see anything. So someone actually, like, put it, I don't know how, but put it back into, like, so the LAPD slowed it down. They put it back into, like, the actual time or whatever. And when you watch the original video, everything is slow. Like, her reaction is slow. So it's just, like, so much creepier to watch. But when you watch what would be the original video with the original time moving at the original, like, rate or whatever, it seems like she's in a panic. Like, it seems like everything is just so more, like, rushed, and she's, like, in a panic, and someone's there and she's just trying to get out. So it's like, if the LAPD did alter it, why? What are you trying to hide?
Good question.
And, like, during that video, it's kind of like she keeps her eye outside of the elevators, like, towards the left. It's like someone's in that corner. She's seeing it. She's talking to someone. She's throwing signals up. Y'all have to watch it. We have to link it somehow into this
Maybe
podcast.
In the description box somewhere.
And then another question I personally had was, so I've worked in a hotel before. And the only working camera was at the front desk. Okay. And that was it. Because that was the most important. So this hotel, say that they did have an elevator camera. Technically, an elevator camera at a hotel is important, but isn't a priority. Your priority would be the front desk. Because your employees are there. That would be the target of any, like, robberies or anything like that. So it's like, if there is a camera working in the elevator, where's the front desk camera? Where's the backdoor camera? Where are the hallway cameras? Where's all that footage?
Right.
They never
no one
released
saw anyone else around?
No one ever released it. There's no, like, evidence that it even exists out there, which is very odd to me. Like, as a former hotel employee, I have a lot of questions for the Cecil Hotel.
They're trying to protect somebody. Possibility.
So I guess we're gonna go into the said Cecil Hotel and its creepy past.
Okay.
So basically, in the end, her death was left as accidental. The case has never been reopened. It was just an open-closed case. Mm-hmm. So the Cecil Hotel was actually created in 1927. Well, it was opened in 1927. It was kind of like a budget hotel, which had weekly and even monthly rates. Mm-hmm. It started off as kind of like a, not high class, not a luxury, but just kind of like a very nice hotel. Just like your average, very nice hotel. But it quickly became an infamous and it had frequent suicides and violent deaths. The first suicide was reported in 1931, which was just like 4 years after its opening, when a guest took some poison capsules in his room. Between the 40s and the 50s, the number of suicides escalated, as well as all-around violence in the hotel. In 1947, Elizabeth Short, aka the Black Dahlia, was spotted drinking at the Cecil's bar just days before her gruesome death and still unsolved murder.
So this is like a hot spot for murderers.
Well, we're about to get into it.
Spooky wookies.
So one of the most bizarre suicides was that of 27-year-old Pauline Otten. Mm-hmm. Otten, who knows? Who in 1962 threw herself from her 9th floor window after arguing with her husband. She landed on 65-year-old George Giannini, who had just happened to be walking by, and both died instantly. So she crushed him to death, and she died while committing suicide.
Yo.
Yep.
That's a suck, bro.
Thank you.
Someone just jumping to kill themselves and they kill you. Like, that really sucks.
In 1964, a well-known long-term resident, lovingly named Pigeon Goldie, because she fed all the pigeons around in the area or whatever, was found dead in her room. She had been raped, beaten, and stabbed to death. Her murder was never solved. From 1984 to 1985, serial killer Richard Ramirez, aka the Night Stalker, stayed in the Cecil Hotel for less than $20 a night before he was captured for killing and raping 13 women. It's said that he would toss his bloody clothing in the dumpster outside the hotel, and then he would just take the fire escape up to his room.
What the fuck?
Exactly. And then an Austrian crime writer, and this is in quotes, crime writer, Jack Unterweger, whatever, was staying in the Cecil for 5 weeks in 1991 while he was supposedly investigating Richard Ramirez. During his stay, he raped, beat, and strangled 3 sex workers. Say what you will, but I'm a believer in the paranormal, and ghosts and spirits and all that. So I can't help but think that all these suicides and vibes and just there's 2 serial killers staying there. Yeah. You can't tell me that
it left some type of aura there in that hotel.
Exactly. So one thing that I will say is, I said I worked at a hotel before and all that. So hotels and a lot of buildings don't have a 13th floor.
Yeah, because of that whole superstition and all that.
Exactly. So the Cecil Hotel was 13 floors.
Oh, shit, it was doomed from the beginning.
But the 13th floor is actually named the 14th floor, and guess where Elisa Lam was staying?
On the 13/14th floor?
Yes, where the Night Stalker stayed.
Ooh, so it's kind of like American Horror Story again, and that dude that be wearing the leather suit that be running around smashing folk, and then he disappears?
And not actually, leather, the director, producer, whatever of American Horror Story took the Cecil Hotel as kind of inspiration for the hotel, as well as the horror, the first season.
The house.
Yeah. Because there's so much. The Black Dahlia, which was in season 1 of American Horror Story.
That is true.
Exactly. And that, when I read it, because I knew about the Night Stalker when I first heard it, but I didn't know about the Black Dahlia staying there just days before she was murdered.
That's interesting.
Fucking creepy as shit.
Yo, it's almost like it was a spot that all the killers and stuff knew about, like, oh yeah, stay here, because they're not going to pay attention to anything.
Exactly. So I guess this is where, like, my whole paranormal Happy Halloween October type thing comes in, because it's like, okay, a lot of people will say that she maybe had a manic episode or whatever, but you can't tell me that you had all these, like, fucking suicides and murders and whatever take place at this hotel and it didn't affect someone. You can't tell me that didn't happen. Like, it's just...
Because, yeah, like you, I do believe in spirits and stuff, and that maybe not to the same extent as some others do, but I do feel like when people have tragic deaths and things like that, it leaves something behind. Whether it's their spirit itself or it's just like a bad vibe and aura that can rub off on others. So, like, that's why which kind of ties into my case, but we'll get there. That's why I don't think I could live in a home where someone was murdered. Yeah. Because I just feel like it leaves something. It just leaves something. Exactly. It's like almost like, I just feel like almost like it's like a portal to, like, the underworld or something. Like,
just like, especially, I don't know, I feel like maybe non-believers or whatever, it's just like you are being not consumed, but maybe affected by the presence, but you just don't know in what way. So you're just, like, writing it off as like, well, I just saw, like, whatever. I'm just not, there's something wrong with me or whatever. It's just like, no, it's that presence there. Not only of the serial killer or the killers or whatever, but of the victims. Yeah. Everything is lingering. Yeah. And I'm a believer, so you can't tell me otherwise.
I'm a believer.
All right, donkey. All right, so couple maybe one whatever theory of this whole case is the weird coincidence that this case, the murder / death whatever of Elisa Lam, with the 2005 remake of a Japanese horror film called Dark Water. Have you watched it, Nia?
No.
You should. It's very good.
The Japanese horror movies are always dope. I just don't necessarily like when we remake them, but they're always really good movies.
So I've only watched the remake, the American version, and that shit had me...
Did it?
It was very good.
Because, like, The Ring and there's a few others were originally Japanese horrors.
Oh, The Ring was really good, too.
They make really good horror movies.
Yeah. But you should watch this.
Okay. All right. That's on my list.
So in the movie, a mom and her young daughter move into an old haunted building. They have water issues throughout the entire film with a dark, foul tasting / smelling water. Sound familiar?
I wonder if any of those people got sick.
And it turns out that it's because there was a body in the water tank in the movie. So this was before the murder of Elisa Lam.
Ooh, do you think maybe the killer was inspired?
Well... There were a couple of key parts in the movie that take place in the elevator, as well as the scene where the elevator footage is being examined. In the movie, the elevator camera is positioned exactly the same as in the movie. Yo. So, the little girl in the movie is seen wearing a red jacket throughout the entire movie. It's kind of like a red, like, rain jacket. Elisa Lam... her last clothing in the footage in the elevator and everything like that is her wearing a red hoodie.
That's creepy.
Very. The main characters are Dahlia, the mom of the little girl, and Cecilia, the daughter. Dahlia the black Dahlia, who frequented the hotel just before her death, and Cecilia, like the Cecil Hotel.
Yo!
So, during her time in the Cecil, where, this is like, aside from that movie or whatever. This is like a very... I didn't find any link, I don't know, but it's just very weird. So during her time in the Cecil Hotel, there was an active tuberculosis outbreak in Skid Row, just around the block from the hotel, and in the general area surrounding the hotel. So it seems from what I read that and what I was able to understand, because I don't understand medical terms or whatever, that this was a result of tuberculosis medication testing in the area. So they were infecting people to test them with medication.
Oh, kind of like the Tuskegee, like how they used to inject people with syphilis. You don't remember that?
No.
Okay, that's for another podcast. But basically, the government was injecting black people with syphilis. It was like some test that they were trying to do.
I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not surprised. So people were exposed to the virus in order to treat them, whatever. Well, the name of said medication to treat that tuberculosis outbreak was Lam Elisa. Her name is Elisa Lam.
Yo, why?
So, this is probably, and I think, completely coincidental, but there are conspiracy theories and that believe that Elisa was exposed to the virus and then killed, maybe because she wasn't a local. So it was like they were trying to expose all these people, like the local Skid Row, whatever, and then they realized, oh shit, she's actually from Canada and she's going to travel outside the area. Let's kill her right quick.
That's scary.
This case is wild. This case has so many like twists and turns. Like you don't know where to go with it.
And again, so make sure I understood you correctly. The movie came out
in 2005. This case happened in 2013.
Yo,
you have to watch this movie. This movie is so fucking good. And like in the end, it's like that body is there. The little girl, like she sees all these things throughout the entire movie, and they had just moved into that like building or whatever because like her mom and dad divorced. She's like, her mom is struggling. They move there. And the little girl is the actual one that discovers this because she like is being drawn to that water tank so she can die too.
Man, conspiracy theory time. What if the person who either wrote or directed the movie
killed her?
Oh! Bruh, because I always say this. Those people who think of those terrible shit, if they weren't doing movies or like books or whatever the case may be, would they really be out here doing it themselves?
Well, I thought about a couple movies.
Ma'am. Don't incriminate yourself on the pod.
So that was a case of Elisa Lam.
That was good.
I mean, it's still like a lingering case. Like, what the fuck happens from here? I have no answers.
Oh my God.
But it was creepy. It creeps me the fuck out.
Yeah, that was good. That's why I was like quiet the whole time because I was really listening. I was just like, yo, this is ridiculous.
And I know your case is one of the things I can't do. I've tried watching the movie and I've gotten 10 minutes into it and I cannot do it. It is so scary.
Okay, well, the way you're saying it, I might actually change the order of this. Never mind. Okay, so what I'm getting into, my story is the Amityville Horror. And so I have a little intro, but basically I'm sure everybody's either seen the movie, heard about it, or there's several books about it. I'm sure someone, you know something about it. And the funny thing is I actually remember visiting my brother in New York one summer and we drove past the Amityville exit and I was like, yo, let's go to the house.
Oh my God. But you're crazy.
He wasn't with the shit, so he wouldn't take me.
Well, I'm glad. High five to your brother, because what the fuck?
I really wanted to go, man. Because at the time he lived in Hempstead, which is a town in Long Island where Amityville is in Long Island. So it's like one of those things. But just to give you a little bit of the legend, if you don't know anything, basically it's a book and movies loosely based on several mysterious, based on the deaths that happened in that home and mysterious was it paranormal activity that happened in a Dutch colonial house located at 112 Ocean Avenue in Amityville of Long Island, like we already mentioned. And basically the story itself just tells the paranormal activity that terrorized the family and that then ended up moving out. They didn't stay very long. So what I found out is most of the stuff that's in that movie is pure Bishop.
Oh, come on now.
And there isn't really a true story tying what happened in that movie. There is a little bit, but I'll touch on that. But there is one major case that did actually happen in that house. So the house really does exist, and there was some things that went on. So that's what I'm mainly going to focus on because this is a murder podcast and not a supernatural podcast. So,
but it's Halloween.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But I'll tell you, basically, I'm gonna tell you guys about the murder that really happened, and then we'll get into the bullshit that the books and stuff talk about and how it all comes together.
Cool,
gotcha. So, let's talk about the murders. So, in 1974, Ronald Butch DeFeo Jr. Took the lives of his father, mother, and 4 siblings in the Amityville home.
Fuck.
Yep. And some believe these deaths are behind the hauntings of the property, but like I said, we'll get into that later.
I believe it.
So, Butch was born on September 26th of 1951 in Brooklyn, New York. He was the oldest of 5 children to the parents Ronald DeFeo Sr. and Louise. His name was Louise. Ronald's dad was a car salesman at his father-in-law's Buick dealership, and his mother was a stay-at-home mom. They lived a comfortable upper middle-class lifestyle, which seemed pretty normal to the outside world, but his father had a bad temper and was said to have a domineering, overpowering demeanor. And he frequently had fights with his mother, not with his mother, but with his wife, and he lashed out on the children. The abuse at home, compiled with the teasing from classmates because of his weight, Butch, because we're going to use Butch because, he's a junior, so.
Right.
Butch began taking his anger out on those around him. He would physically attack his father and even a few friends. His parents became concerned about his behavior, but not their own or the kids at school.
Exactly.
Eye roll. And took him to for psychological evaluation and counseling. Well, this didn't work because Butch would deny that he needed help. His parents resorted to offering him cash and sensitives and large gifts, and one of which was a $14,000 speedboat.
What the fuck?
So I feel like they was more than upper middle class.
Can I take the $14,000?
Right.
Or do I have to take the boat?
But yeah, so they would offer him cash and gifts in exchange for good behavior. But that really didn't work either because he was later expelled from school for violent outbursts. And by the age of 17, he turned to heroin and LSD.
A balance. It's all about balance.
LSD. Unless they say Rocky now. So Butch seemed to take advantage of the fact that his parents, though verbally abusive, I would assume, because they didn't mention anything about physical, they didn't. He tried to take advantage of the fact that they didn't seem to have much control over their children and would basically dick them out of money regularly. At the age of 18, Butch began working at his grandfather's dealership with little to no expectations and received weekly payment regardless of his job, attendance, or performance. So I just feel like he was a spoiled brat.
Yeah.
The money, he would spend the money he earned on his car, which was also a gift from his parents, guns, drugs, and alcohol. It was it was reported that it was around the time that was the same time where he started acting weirdly, and he once threatened a friend with a rifle on a hunting trip, and then later attempted to shoot his parents because they were arguing.
What the fuck?
So like his parents were arguing, I guess he got tired of this shit, and he was like, "I'm gonna kill you all," basically. But he actually pulled the trigger, but the gun didn't go off.
Oh my god! And they let him stay in the house.
Yeah, they didn't do shit.
They're just like, oh,
silly kid, here's some more money.
Silly child.
So in 1974, Butch plotted ways to embezzle money from the dealership because he felt his salary wasn't enough, even though he didn't have to do shit. So in October of the same year, he was tasked with depositing $20,000 to the bank. So he took this chance to plan a fake robbery with a friend of his and agreed to go halfsies with him.
Oh my god.
Shortly after this incident, police showed up at the dealership to question him. He was uncooperative and extremely angry. And this was because the police became more suspicious with him and asked him to come down to the station to look at some mugshots of possible suspects, and he refused. So I feel like they just asked him to come down because they thought he was lying.
Exactly.
Right. And I guess he was hip to it, so he refused to go. This caused his father to question him as well. And when asked why he didn't cooperate with the police, Butch threatened to kill his father. And of course, nothing was done.
So he pulled a gun on them and threatened to kill them?
Yep. But they really didn't feel the need. Yeah. So,
Lord. Shortly
after, so that was October, so now we're in November. The morning of November 13th, 1974, Butch grabbed a 35 caliber Marlin rifle from his secret arsenal of guns and killed his mother, father, 2 sisters, and 2 brothers at point blank range.
Oh my god.
After this was done, he showered and got dressed. And then he put the gun and the bloody clothes into a pillowcase and dumped it in a storm drain on the way to work. Now, I still don't understand why he still has a job at this point, especially because you were trying to embezzle money from there. But I guess that's neither here or there. So,
it's his family business. He tried to kill him. They don't give a fuck.
Clearly.
It's like, oh, silly kid.
Kids get away with no consequences. While there, he called home, pretending he was concerned about why his father didn't show for work that day. And around lunchtime, he left for work because he claimed he was bored and decided to go hang out with friends. While he was with his friends, he mentioned to them that he couldn't get in contact with anyone at home, but this may have been his way of securing an alibi. Around 6 p.m., he called another friend and told them that the home had been broken into and the family was all killed. And then the friend called the cops. The friend went to the home and then he called the cops. I don't think I would have went to the house. Well, you know what? If he believed that his friend was upset, then maybe. He probably went to go console his friend and then call the cops.
I don't know. I feel like after watching so many things, it's like, hey, my parents haven't answered for hours. Go check the house. I would have been like, let me call the cops.
Right. I wouldn't have told you to go check the house. And I would have been like, Myra, some shit's going down. I need, like, my friend by me kind of thing. Yeah. But that's just weird.
Like, let's call the cops first. Right. I'm not walking into no bodies.
Right. You leaving evidence everywhere.
Exactly.
Doesn't make any sense. So, the family, and I actually have all their names. So, of course, mom is Louise. Father is Ronald. He had, all his siblings were 18-year-old Dawn, 13-year-old Allison, 12-year-old Mark, and a 9-year-old John Matthew. Were all found face down in their beds and shot to death. Again, at close range and still in their pajamas. So
that's wild.
Butch was questioned and he claimed he couldn't sleep and left early for work that morning and believed his family was alive when he left for the day. So this is what he told the police. He also accused the mafia of killing his family and named Louis Filani as responsible. He said that there's an old beef between the man and his family over some work he did at the dealership. And he was placed in protective custody as they continue to investigate the murders. So, after searching the home, the police began to find clues that pointed at Butch, and one of which was an empty box for a new rifle that matched the weapon that was used to kill the family. And as mentioned before, the family was found in pajamas, placing Butch at the home at the time of the murders, and not away as he claimed. And when they questioned him about the new evidence, he changed his story. He said that Filani had come to the house in the morning and put a gun to his head, forcing him to watch the murders of his family while being dragged from room to room by an accomplice. The police didn't believe him and continued to question him, causing Butch to crack and eventually confess to doing the murders himself. On October 14th, 1975, a year after the murders, his trial began. His defense attorney attempted an insanity plea by telling jurors and the court that Butch heard voices. So there's a spooky wookie. Here we go. And the voices told him to kill his family. The psychiatrist for the defense, Dr. Daniel Schwartz, supported the claim, saying that DeFeo was neurotic and suffered from dissociative disorder. What did I say?
Dissociative.
Yep, can't read today. But the psychiatrist for the prosecution, Dr. Harold Zolan, proved that DeFeo suffered from antisocial personality disorder. The illness made him, the defendant, aware of his actions, but motivated by self-centered attitude. Yeah. So, on November 21st, 1975, he was found guilty of 6 counts of murder and received 6 consecutive 25 to life sentences.
It's wild to me that, like, he killed all of them and no one heard
anything. Yeah, that was weird. They said that they did question neighbors and things like that. Nobody heard.
And not only that, but it's just like, if I'm in one room and you kill mom who's in another room, like, you'd think you'd be woken by, or someone would be awoken.
One of the kids would have woke up or something.
Yeah, and struck, but no one heard it. That's wild.
Can't sleep that damn hard.
Exactly.
I don't know. Okay, so after 2 years after his sentencing, the first book was published about the family who lived in the home after the murders, which is called The Amityville Horror, a true story, and it was published exactly September of 1977. So that brings me to the next part of the story.
My favorite.
So that very book was about the, I guess it's pronounced Lutz family, Lutz. And basically, they moved into the home 13 months after the DeFeo murders. And it was purchased by George and Kathy Lutz at a reduced price of $80,000.
They really reduced.
But they didn't stay in the home more than 28 days.
Oh, I bet.
So the family was informed of the murders that happened prior to it being placed on the market, but decided to move in the 5-bedroom Dutch colonial with their 3 children anyway. Despite having the house blessed by a priest, and it came out later that the priest allegedly heard a voice scream out when he was doing it.
The fuck?
And that he told the Lutz to never sleep in that particular room in the house. But
they still bought the house?
Yeah, but see, this is something else that I found out, that George, the father or whatever, actually dabbled in a little bit of spooky shit in the occult.
Oh my god.
So that kind of debunks the shit too, because it's like, was the house haunted, or did you bring some shit with you there if you was already into that shit?
But regardless,
or because you were open to it fucked with you.
Exactly.
So
it's like, it does, maybe it debunks the whole thing of like it being haunted like itself, but it doesn't debunk, or for me, the fact that there is something there. Whether you brought it or it was there, that shit, it was like, huh?
So, because this all happened within 28 days, it's really not a lot of information, because there's a lot of figuring out what those books were real and what it wasn't. But what they do say is real, that they recorded from him or the family, is that George would report waking up at 3:15 every morning. And
dead time.
Yeah, that's like witch's time or whatever. And the exact time, and then apparently that was the exact time the murders happened.
Bitch!
Their daughter began talking to an imaginary friend named Jody. Their son. Nope. Their sons were said to have been seen levitating off their bed.
Nope. See, I know you Americans love the idea of imaginary friends and shit, but I'm not saying you, but I'm saying you.
I'm about to say, we've had this conversation. Like, if we ever came home talking about it.
My mom, if you ever said, hey, little Carlitos is telling me, she would have been like, excuse me, bitch? Who's Carlitos? Pulled that holy water in that rosary out real quick.
The priest would have been at my house the next day. That same afternoon, probably.
House call on that shit.
They would have beat the shit out of me for that shit.
You would have been in the room alone with holy water coming out your ass.
That don't fly, not no Hispanic or Caribbean home. That don't fly. So, so dope.
No imaginary friends.
Nope.
That's some bullshit. That's a spirit.
No new friends. Okay, so she said that. So then the 2 boys also claimed that they were levitating from their beds, and
that's it.
And the wife also said that she levitated above her bed, and
was she fucking a ghost?
And then when she landed, she actually had welts on her chest.
Bitch.
Yeah, they into some rough shit. So also a nearby garage door opened and closed. They also seen an invisible spirit knocking a knife down in the kitchen. A pig-like creature with red eyes staring down at George.
Bitch!
And his son, Daniel, from the window.
And you stayed there? Oh, God. Have mercy.
On January 14th of 1976, the family grew tired of all the bullshit, the undisplayed activity.
Oh, now they did?
And left the home. It was said that they didn't take anything with them, they just left. And at the time had a very hard time explaining what happened to them that night, which made them leave. So here's a little bit of afters, or
the good stuff.
Yeah. So after telling their story, George and Kathy actually took a lie detector test to prove that they're innocent, because I guess everybody kept calling bullshit on this stuff, and they actually passed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
So the couple was actually, after all this, they were actually bogged down in legal and financial issues, what prompted skeptics to believe they had a motive to create the story and sell it to the public. Also, their former lawyer, William Weber, they had a falling out with him over financial issues, and he came out in 1979 claiming that the three of them came up with the story over many bottles of wine. He said the couple actually approached him with an idea for a book.
Look,
and the whole thing was a hoax.
As a wine drinker myself, I've had plenty of bottles of wine. I think the most I've had is about 2.5 bottles by myself. I have never in my life been like, you know what? After this bottle of wine, I've seen no. Well, that's not what you do.
Well, no other owners of the property have claimed any other disturbances.
Right.
Like, a lot of them said, like, the weirdest thing they ever had, which is the fact that people keep coming to the house because they know it's the house from the situation.
Pardon me if I'm jumping the gun, but did you read whatever on the two paranormal investigators that went in? Mm-mm. So there was, like, so you know The Conjuring?
Yeah.
So those are based on, like, true stories,
right,
with those paranormal investigators who actually became, like, renowned and famous for investigating that Amityville Horror as well.
Okay.
So, like, that movie, I think I don't know if again, I've never seen it past, like, the first 10 minutes, but, like, they touch on those two paranormal investigators who are, like, I think it was built on an Indian burial ground.
The house itself.
That's why there's, like, a lot of spirits.
Could be.
So it's just not like, so it does have to do with the fact that the first 6 members of the family, whatever, were murdered, but he was actually possessed by that, like, Indian burial ground and all those bad vibes.
It could be, I mean, because he kept saying that he claimed that he heard voices. They also said that ever since he's been locked up, he's changed his story several times. So we don't really...
He could be bipolar, schizophrenic, or have a plethora of mental
other
illnesses.
issues. Or just suffer from spoiled child syndrome. But it's neither here or there. So, But the other people that have been interviewed that lived in that home have said nothing has happened. Mm-hmm. So again, I always feel like it goes back to you have to be open to those things and see how George used to dabble in that stuff. He could have been open to it, and that's why it affected his family. True. Also, it was fresh after all those murders, so the house probably ain't had time to, like, chill out. Who knows? So, so we talked about all of that. The son Daniel that we mentioned before, that said that he saw, like, the pig-like figure. He actually lives in Queens now, and he works as a stonesman, and he actually says the house ruined his life, and he continues to have nightmares to this day.
I don't doubt him.
And the last information I found out about the house itself is that it sold in February of 2017 to an undisclosed owner for $605,000. And it's actually $200,000 less than the original asking price.
I bet.
It was previously owned by 4 other families since the murders, and one of them actually changed the address to 108 Ocean Avenue, because originally it was 112. I guess they changed the address so that people will be less likely to come.
Bitch, I got my itinerary ready to get there.
So, yeah, but that's what I had on.
The Amityville Horror?
Yeah. Spooky wookie. So, yeah, most of that story is just basically the only thing that's proven that happened in that home
is the murders.
Were those murders. Those poor people that were murdered by their child. Yeah. And what the Lutz family talked about in the books and stuff like that, there's still a lot of controversy about how much is true and how much isn't.
I mean, and it also has a lot to do with what you believe in and what you want to. Because a lot of people will be like, oh, well, he was just whatever. But, like, a believer like myself would be like, nah, there's, like, a lot more to it than that.
It's also perspective. I mean, I might see something different than you might see. Or, you know, or like, I think I've said it a few times already, but, like, I've always been told you have to be open to those things. So if you're not open to spirits or anything like that, you won't see them.
But it's also, like, a lot of, I don't know, like, I've always wanted to, because, like, my, like, ex, whatever, was, like, not open to those things. But when I asked, like, more questions as to, well, how do you explain this? How do you explain this? It was just like, And it was just like, okay. But it's like, say, you don't want to walk into the cemetery in the middle of the night.
But why?
Why? If you don't believe in it, if you're not open to it, walk into the middle of the cemetery. Ain't nothing gonna happen to you if you don't believe in it.
But I feel like a lot of that stuff is deeply ingrained in us because you have to remember, like, religion and tradition, all this stuff has been passed on for so long that a lot of it just becomes habit, or you have like innate fears. Like I remember watching documentaries talking about like why are we afraid of little ass bugs or like snakes and stuff because well they're saying it's really because back when we were still like cave people or whatever the case may be, we had to be afraid of them because that could mean life or death. So it's like an inherited fear that we have. And I think and even like they even say traumas can be passed down through generation. So I think it could be something similar. Like, you know, we just all have this innate fear of it because it's the unknown or because it's always been a thing for us as human beings.
And I understand that, but like I always want to just like, so why can't you just admit that maybe there is something that you can't explain that's scary? Why is it always like, because like for myself,
denial is always easier for people.
Is true, or like trying to be like, I don't know. I'm just very open to those things. So I believe that maybe this guy was possessed, or there was something in his head, or there is more to the story than the logic allows us to. I don't know how to explain it, but I believe in ghosts.
I just feel like there's always something that can't be explained. We don't know the answer for everything.
Exactly.
Like to quote the Boondocks, there's no knowns and there's no unknowns. Like there's always something that we can't prove. So a lot of people use, the religion as the answer for why these things can't be explained, or a number of things. So whatever I guess helps you sleep at night is what you use to explain explain why certain things happen. It is what it is.
Do you believe in ghosts, Nia?
I don't know how to explain that. I believe in spirits, not necessarily ghosts, if that makes sense. So I don't believe there's someone walking around like it's going to make my TV levitate and like booga booga booga. But
do you believe that there's someone making your TV levitate to communicate with you?
No. I believe spirits communicate with you. And I guess because I choose to believe more into positive or like light spirits, not like dark spirits. So I feel like they find ways of communicating with you through like dreams or like unexplained signs you might see, and things like that.
See, I'm consumed by darkness. So I believe that there are things out there trying to fuck you up. So what I want to say is I don't deny that there's evil presences or spirits or whatever you want to call them. But I don't think that they're like throwing shit across the room and like poltergeist stuff.
Yeah, I don't believe it's like that.
Yeah.
But I feel like maybe they put certain thoughts and ideas in your mind or, they may sway certain events, but I've
never thought about it that way. Like, I think I've never thought about it as like them trying to, or being like a part of you or trying to control your thoughts or trying to sway you into something. It's more of like just them trying to like show that they're physically there.
I feel like they may present themselves in different people too. True. Because there's light and dark in individuals. Yeah. And I feel like they present themselves that way as well. I'm all about the darkness. No, please. Don't do that. But like, it's always been a weird thing for me because like, this usually ties into religion and like I'm not the most religious. I'm like,
neither am I, yeah.
I was raised Catholic and like most Hispanics.
Me too. In super big quotes.
You got the off-white quotes around you. But, I was raised Catholic and, we were taught about, the devil and things like that. And now that I've got older and I've researched different religions myself, like, I don't believe in organized religion. I do believe in a higher power. But I do believe that, there's spirits and like I said, unexplained shit. Right. But I've completely lost my whole point of bringing that up.
I was just like, wait, what?
Where am I going here? No, but I just don't feel like there's some like evil presence causing everything to go bad. I don't know. It's kind of weird for me.
Yeah, I don't believe that there's an evil presence behind everything. I just feel like there's like, I don't know what way to explain it. It's just like, I just believe that there's things around you at all times. Yeah. Whether it's good or bad or whatever, it's just there. Yeah. And like a lot of times, like, that whole, what is it? When you dream, when you're in what is it? Like you're kind of paralyzed in your dreams?
Sleep
paralysis.
There you go.
It's just like, is it sleep paralysis or is it just you? Oh yeah, because
some people think it's like a demon holding you down or something like that.
My brother had his first sleep paralysis. This is like a little story time on the side. My brother, my youngest brother,
that's what you get when you don't hear from us for a while.
Who's 12, had his first sleep paralysis like experience like a couple weeks ago, and he to this day is convinced that there is something in his room, and it's just like I don't like me and my mom don't want to be the ones to be like. It's sleep paralysis and like completely dismiss him, but it's just like, what if it like in his like I can't tell him what you're thinking is wrong because maybe it's not.
Yeah.
And it's just like that line between like, hey, here's this like physical explanation as to what's happening to you versus this like it could be.
I mean, but they also say that the younger are more sensitive to it.
This is true. But it's just like, I remember my first sleep paralysis was just like, what the fuck was that? And it's just like, you honestly feel like there's something there. And like, my mom has like this very, like, her first sleep paralysis was something very like dark.
Traumatic, yeah.
And traumatic, where to like this day, she thinks that it was maybe sleep paralysis, something like explainable. But it was something else in that room with her that night. And it's just like, to my brother, it's just like, what do I say to make you think that, like, I don't want to, like, dismiss you and think that you're crazy, because then that's how, like, things are formed in your head.
Yeah. I've experienced sleep paralysis.
I've experienced it so many times.
Many times, yeah, but I've never.
I'm just like, I know, like, my mom told me, like, I think the first time I told her, she was just like, you just tell him to fuck off, get the fuck away from you, and that's it. And I know, like, when that happens, I'm just like, fuck you! And then I'm just like, all right. And
I can move now, yeah.
And that's it.
But every time that I've had it, I've never felt like there was a presence holding me down. There was only one time I thought I saw something, but I think because I was a little schmizzed off of some NyQuil because I was sick.
Sure.
So I feel like, because I had some NyQuil and I drank some like rum, because I always drink rum when I'm sick.
Nia, don't drink. Wink, wink.
I do that when I'm sick. And I went to sleep. And I woke up in the middle of the night and I could have sworn something was like hovering over me. And I was like, I don't want to see it. And went back to sleep. I was good after that. But
exactly,
I don't know. But then it was another time, an ex of mine, we were asleep in the bed. And I got woke up because he's like grabbing me. Like he has his like arm across me. He's like palming my cheek, but like pulling it. And I'm just like, bro, what are you doing?
He was trying to.
No, he wasn't. I was just like, what are you doing?
You know he was trying to do. He was trying to possess you, dude.
And I was just like, what are you doing? And he was like, I thought I saw like something in the corner, like, and I was just like, what? Like, I mean, that was probably wrong of me to laugh at him, but I was just like, go to sleep.
See, because I would have gotten up with my holy water and my rosary and started.
But see, like,
in the name of Jesus Christ.
The reason why I was just like that, because he's like kind of like how your boo is now. He's like scary, and like we had watched a horror movie earlier, so I just assumed that it was something like that. But then I'm trying to think of another situation with me. So sometimes I have like really bad scary dreams, like really bad. And I will see, like in my dreams, I will see what I perceive as a demon. I don't really know what,
right.
You know. And someone had told me like years ago when I was younger, they were like, when you see that, yell out the blood of Jesus. Kind of like how your mom tells them to say fuck off.
Fuck off.
So,
fuck your mother.
Fuck your mother. Become Jamaican.
Exactly.
So that's what usually works for me. I don't know why when they said it to me, it like stuck to me. Just like it stuck with you to say fuck off. But like if I have one of those really like dreams, in my dream I always end up yelling. I don't know if I'm yelling it out loud or if in my dream.
Yeah.
But I always yell the blood of Jesus and I automatically wake up.
That's like the weirdest thing for me, because it's like I know when I'm having like one of those dreams, it's like I'm screaming at the top of my lungs. And then like the next morning I'm like, did anyone of y'all hear me scream? I'm like, no. Like, no. It's just like, damn, so what's happening? Like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, it's weird. I've woke myself up like yelling in my sleep or like
crying. Crying is like one of the worst ones.
I don't think I've ever cried in my sleep, but the other day I had a dream I was choking someone and I was actually grabbing the shit out my arm and woke myself up. So, shut up. Anyway,
that was our beliefs. What are course.
Right.
If you don't believe in ghosts, I don't give a fuck.
But I mean, it's okay if you don't believe in, ghosts or spirits or whatever, or anything of that realm. I mean,
it's okay for Nia. It's not okay for me.
Look, I don't judge people for their agencies, but
I judge.
I just, it is what it is. It's just like some people think it's bad juju that I have a statue of Ganesh in the house. Like they think because some people are very strict.
Look, if I had the statue
are.
of like Satan or something, then you could tell me some shit.
Yeah, that's when I start asking you questions. But if you got
shout out my sister who has one of like what is it?
She got the Book
La
of the
Santa
Dead.
Muerte.
Oh,
yeah, that shit is scary.
Oh yeah, not going to your sister.
But anyways, thank you for joining us on this splendid spooky episode.
Yes,
we will be back sooner than you think.
Yeah. But yeah, so as always, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe on any of the platforms we're on.
We're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud. Rate us, subscribe. Thank you so much. YouTube. Thank you so much for the latest. I know our Jeffrey Dahmer has like wild numbers.
Yeah, we were doing pretty good on numbers, even though we haven't been very consistent
at all.
That's something we're working on. So,
yeah.
We're early in this, but
yeah,
we're definitely working on it. But we're going to work on not making excuses. We'll be here as much as we can for you guys.
Yes.
But like we said, always like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you follow us on Twitter for any updates. So if we ever go away again, you'll know why.
Or Instagram.
Tweet. Yeah, Instagram too. We update. Let us know if you're interested in seeing us maybe live tweet some shows about murders,
or if you want to see us on YouTube record one of these pods.
If you want some video, let us know. Then I'll actually get dressed for a pod and we'll do it.
Do my face for a pod.
But yeah, so that's it.
Thank you. Happy Halloween.
Yes.
Happy October. We'll be back soon.
Peace out.
Fuck this shit, I'm out.